the mind that's been programmed and conditioned based on certain belief systems, based on society, based on your parents, based on the trauma that you've experienced. It's getting out of that, bypassing that, getting into the body. And the more that I've been able to become quiet enough to listen to what's within my body, all the answers have been there for me. And for someone that's like, what do you mean by listening to your heart? It's like, we've all had that inner knowing before. We've all had that inner knowing that we've listened to, we've taken action on, and therefore it's opened up a doorway of opportunity. And then we've gone down that path. And then if we connect the dots going backwards, we can then see that it only must have been guidance of some sort. And on a more of a spiritual, I guess, definition of what I feel it means to listen to your heart is listening to the closest thing that we have to pure consciousness, which is our heart. And it was the very first thing that was developed in the womb. It's the most intelligent thing, and it's also the most magnetic thing as well, right? When we look at like the power of manifestation, the heart is 5,000 times more magnetic than the brain. The heart is what draws in the experiences, draws in the opportunities, draws in the wealth, the money, the people, the dream partner. And that's because it's the powerhouse. And I know when men cultivate a relationship with their heart, they get out of their head. And as I said, the ego is very much designed to keep us safe and alive, not happy and fulfilled. Right? It has one objective, safe and alive. And the more we can get out of that and live from a place of truth, we get to live at a higher vibrational frequency, a higher level of consciousness, and experience a greater level and depth of life. So yeah, there's layers and depth to what I feel it means to listen to your heart. But to bring it back to someone who's listening to this that's potentially early on in their journey, it's listening to that inner knowing, that inner voice that's there. And normally, sometimes it's the voice that you don't want to actually hear because it goes against the ego and what the ego wants, because the ego is just trying to keep you safe. So basically getting out of your head and getting into your heart is moving from fear into courage, acceptance, and love. Yeah.
I love that. Because when you mentioned listening to your heart, I remember when I was, I think, 20 years old, like 20, 21 years old, is when I had to really go within myself and listen to my heart. I was torn by two guys. I had a choice of which one am I going to date, right? Which one I'm going to be with. And I did not know which boy to choose. And I really had to dig in and listen to the heart. And for me, it was, give the guy that chased it you in high school a chance. Like if I never dated this guy, like, I don't know, I guess the regret came in. So I listened to my heart and dated the guy that chased me in high school. And I dated him and he ended up breaking my heart. But my soul knew that I needed my heart to get broken so it can open another layer of myself. And that was actually the best thing that ever happened to me, was listening to that choice, because I don't regret it at all, because that heartbreak right there, it was for me to find who I am, to open another layer of this love that I haven't that I abandoned. And it was the greatest listen to your heart.
Yeah. Look, I would still be on a dirty job site if I didn't listen to my heart. And it's, listening to your heart is like I said, listening to the greater voice, that guidance that we are truly guided by.
Yes.
And the more we listen to that, it's what I call, so I teach there's 3 levels of integrity. There's the physical integrity, how we hold ourselves physically, how we show up physically, our connection to our body. That's physical integrity. Then the second level is emotional integrity. So that's living with in integrity of your heart and your emotions, being in tune with your emotions, and being able to really cultivate a relationship with them. And then the third one is the most powerful, and that's living with integrity of the soul.
Mm.
And living in integrity of the soul is seeing how these things are unfolding for us karmically and allowing ourselves to live with an open heart, knowing that we are on a karmic journey, on a karmic path. And for example, it's you can just tell by connecting the dots going backwards, like what you just shared, that like all of these things happen in order for our greatest purpose, which is the evolution and growth and expansion of our soul. And the more we live in alignment with that, living from our heart, the more we allow the soul to grow, evolve, and expand.
Mm.
Yeah, so I love that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And then also you talked about healing, right? How does a man takes like the first action steps to healing? Like where does one start with if he doesn't know where to begin?
So I tend to look at relationships first and foremost, because relationships tend to be the biggest pain point for most men.
Mm-hmm.
Either they struggle to get one, they shut them out, or they're struggling in their current relationship. And why I believe that this is the biggest pain point for most men is because it's finally something that's meaningful enough to them that reminds them of their childhood and what they experienced as a little boy around love, around the love they did or didn't receive from mum or dad. A lot of and this shows up a lot of in attachment styles, the avoidant and anxious attachment style. So the journey really begins at taking a look at your current results that you're getting or not getting, your frustrations, your challenges, what you keep experiencing in relationships, the pain that you experience around love. Really taking a good look at this, because as children, we are wired for mother and father. And our mother and father tend to be our first representation and role models of the masculine and feminine energy. So when we look at the integration of the healthy masculine and feminine energy, we bring it back to mother and father wounds, the love that the little girl, little boy did or didn't receive. And we tend to see that the more we go back here, the more we realize there's no separation between what happened then, what you experienced as a little 4-year-old boy or girl, and what you decided in that moment to what you're experiencing now. So a lot of the work I do is people come to me for relationship stuff. They're lacking purpose, lacking they're struggling to get results in their business or their career or whatever it is. And I always bring it back to, who did you decide to be when you were 4 or 5 years old? I'm bringing it back to, who did you have to be in order to receive mum or dad's love?
Mm.
And normally, most of the times, especially men or little boys, they received either inconsistent love from mum, and they develop this anxiousness towards love, this fear of abandonment, this fear of, I can't, like, there's unpredictability when love's going to be around. And there's like this sense of betrayal that love's very easily taken away from me. And then that shows up in relationships. And then the father wound is typically a man, how he feels he has to perform in order to be accepted and approved by his dad. That shows up in business, that shows up in work. So these mother father wounds tend to really we experience, and as I said, we're wired for mother and father. Also, when we're children, we're egocentric. The world has to revolve around us for us to get our needs met. Because if we don't get our needs met, we die. Like we need caretakers as babies, as children. So along with that, and along with the egoic mind that needs to make meaning of things, because things need to make sense. Because if things don't make sense, then it's the brain can't comprehend it. So along with this, a little boy, a little girl experiences something at a young age, whether it's inconsistent love, whether it's dad was really harsh or had really high standards, whatever it was. We then make meaning of it because we're just meaning making machines as little children, and the world revolves around us and our needs are not being met. So we make some core beliefs and decisions about ourselves in that period of time. And based on our identity, we then revolve an identity around that. Based on our identity, we'll do everything in our power to prove to ourselves that this is who we are. Because this allows our brain to have some sort of what would you say? Order and structure. Right? Otherwise the brain can't comprehend it. So this is how we create an identity around who we decided to be. So we find ways throughout our whole life to reaffirm back to us that this is who we are.